I mean, for me, the big ones here are probably this prioritization of value of import over local, the lack of regional awareness of opportunities and development is obviously something we can work with. Assuring an evolving quality without getting caught up with bureaucracy is a huge challenge, which I know some of us are already facing. And as I said, the experts in regional expertise, and the risk is that you end up that everybody has to be flown a very long way. Okay, I mentioned before some of these other organizations, we've got connections into them, and I think one of the things we should do in the next 12 months is actually make sure that these organizations all know how dynamic this organization is. There's only 3 up there, but one of them we've been trying to get to know of us, and so far we can't get an email back because we're obviously not sufficiently important. So I hope over the next 12 months we can change that, because there's a volume of expertise which they have, and which I know the individuals involved, and that we can build on their expertise and draw down from it once they recognize that this is significant. To put it in context, NASM currently has 600 plus members. That's institutional members. So when they meet in a very, very large hotel, and they go into some of the largest rooms I've ever seen. And if you bring your binoculars, you can see the person who's running it at the front, and everything seems to be. It's a bit like it looks a little bit to me like the event in Beijing last week. I mean, there's sort of all these people sitting at desks, and up in the front there is the leadership. So of course that's not the sort of ship that is going to suddenly change direction and give support to that little group that's coming forward. AEC is a bit smaller. It's about 300 members, but it's focused exclusively on conservatories. So even if you're the Cambridge Music Department, or faculty actually, the Cambridge Music Faculty does not belong to the AEC. So it's gone to the other extreme. It's very focused into the conservatory world. NATMOS tries to embrace everybody, but because it's in Australia, it doesn't end up with many. So in fact, I think we already have more members around the table here than NATMOS does. But actually, and they found frustration by being too small. So it's actually interesting to work with these different groups and see where they are. Martin Prakal was the Chief Executive Officer of the AEC for about 15 years. I know him very well, and he really transformed that organization, and we're very privileged to have him come to the last meeting to talk to us about some of what he saw as the priorities for a transnational organization. I think it's useful to at least air these again for those who weren't there last time, because he has had to work very closely with Brussels over the last 15, 20 years, and is used to working in the political environment as well as the musical environment to get these things understood. And interestingly, the first word he brought up was advocacy. In other words, what you have to do more than anything as a transnational organization is push for your topic area, because everybody else is gifted, trained, and well developed in how they advocate, and we're very new. Speaking of advocacy, the greatest advocate arguably in Southeast Asia, President just walked into the room, so please welcome Dr. Slippery. Another one, of course, is this concept of transparency, to be able to be clear so that other people know what we do. Now, we don't all have to say we're training. We don't all have to say we're training people to be world-class international superstars. That may not be our mission, and it's not the only mission that has validity. So to really be clear what our institutions are aiming to do, and then to be making sure we do it. What's relevant in the societal context? How do we take that forward? How do we share that other people know that? Quality, to make sure we're doing it well, and to allow others perhaps even to give us advice or perceptions or whatever of our ways of doing things. and that actually people can get from one organization, one environment to another, see what each other are doing, and grow from that evolving richness. That actually, the perspective was also, again, as I say, politically to be visible. To actually make it clear what specific attentions, what things are really needed in a field. And to actually see that there are benefits from international cooperation, both at institutional and individual levels. I've never seen a student who's gone on an international exchange of some sort who came back poorer. They always come back financially poorer, but I've never seen them come back humanly poorer. It's obviously something is of tremendous, relevance for everyone. But obviously it's also important for teachers, management staff, curriculum, development, and so on. And it's easy, therefore, to just be stuck on, let's get the great teachers across between the two places, or let's get the best students across between the two places. It's also, let's get the administrative structures more aware and so on, supported and so on. So I think these are areas we need to work at. Now, NACTMUS recently has listed 6 areas it thinks it should focus on. And I thought they were quite interesting, just as something to be given consideration to for potential areas for discussion within the group, and this is where we get to defining our identities this afternoon. So research and innovation. I love the idea that it's gradually working out from research in a number of countries now, this concept of innovation as being almost equal to research. In other words, what are you doing that's new? Not just what are you doing that you can justify everybody else. You're taking forward a body of knowledge which is already rich. There's a great thing that the German philosopher Nietzsche used to say, that whenever he wanted a new idea, he used to lock himself away from everybody else. So it was the opposite of the current research paradigm. It was go inside yourself and find an answer. It sounds like a very East Asian philosophy in truth, but it's maybe something we should also recognize, that innovation can come from within as well as from outside. Learning and teaching, obviously important. Policy and advocacy, things we've talked about before. How to develop people, how to communicate with each other and with our community. This is really important. We can get stuck just discussing music with musicians, and actually as musicians discuss music with musicians, music sort of disappears from the society and no one even noticed potentially. So it's important we get outside. And obviously that they've specified a particular communicative means, which is a website. Now whether it's a website one needs or whether it's a slightly more developed mix of communicative tools, it's interesting to just be thinking about that. Now I've gone back to the list we had before. You can see that their list is already sort of tighter than ours, even though pretty much their list virtually covers the same thing. Probably if we said we wanted a regional leader in each of those fields, we're going to have an unmanageable structure. So somewhere, although we might want to do all of those things, when it comes to leadership of areas, we're probably